Hey guys, this is TheTopher. Today I'm out in sunny Boulder, Colorado, driving the 2023 GMC Sierra 1500 AT4X. Think of this as kind of the Silverado ZR2, but in GMC form. This is powered by a naturally aspirated 6.2 liter V8 that's mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Power is sent to either two wheels or all four wheels. And well, today we're going to take you for a walk around this GMC AT4X. Then we'll take it out on Boulder Canyon Road, see what it's like to drive, and I'll tell you guys what it's been like to live with this thing for a week out here in Colorado. But before we go for a drive, let's hop out, take a look around it, and talk about what makes this the AT4X. So GM's kind of been going crazy lately with all these different trim levels of their trucks, because of course on the GMC side we have the regular AT4, and then above it we've got the Denali and whatever is below all of that. But then they've now just slotted in this AT4X trim, which is basically, like I said earlier, the Silverado ZR2. So what you get on the AT4X over just the regular AT4 or the Chevy Trail Boss are the Multimatic DSSV dampers, also a 2-inch lift. You get front and rear locking differentials, and you also get some very hefty skid plates. What's interesting to me is that if you go on GMC's website and look at the AT4X, it shows it in a bit more of an aggressive form. You've got different wheels, you've got different bumpers that allow for better approach and departure angles, but for some reason our presser this week, our loaner, doesn't really look too much different than just a regular AT4 truck. The only thing I will say is you can certainly tell that it sits up quite a bit higher, and we can take a look here into the wheel arches to see that different suspension, if you will. This truck is finished in desert sand metallic, an optional extra that I think is absolutely awesome on this truck. It makes it kind of stand apart, look a little bit different. Toyota's been kind of playing around with these sand kind of beige colors for a while with their trucks, so it's cool to see some other companies taking part in that as well. And since this is a GM truck, we have this multi-fold style tailgate, which does actually make quite a lot of sense. I remember when these came out, I was kind of making fun of them, but now that I've lived with some of these GM trucks, they're actually really cool. You can see this is a split tailgate design, and if you want, you can have this top section come down separately. You can use it as a work area, or if you want to eat a Big Mac on your lunch break or something, you can kind of stand here and do that. You can also use it as a bed extension. If you're hauling something and you want it to butt up to this, it gives you a little bit extra room, probably a foot extension to the bed. Then we'll shut this. We'll take the whole tailgate down, and you can have that in just normal function there. Hit this top button again and put this down, and it actually turns into a step. So you kind of have this staircase to hop up into the bed of the truck. Take a look at the roof here. We've got a moonroof on this truck. Spray and bed liner. You can see we've got AT4X right there. And what I think is the coolest actually about this whole setup back here is that you actually have a kicker speaker here, or subwoofer, whatever you want to call it, integrated into the tailgate. And you can line in here with USB or aux, or Bluetooth actually. And this whole thing lights up at night, makes it easy to use. You've got kickers on either side. Pretty sweet integration here in this GMC Sierra. This is all manual. We don't have any power function here on the tailgate other than the actual buttons to release it. So you've got a couple of cameras there. We've got steps here to give you access, and also handles to pull you up. If you want to get up that way, you can do that as well. So kind of like I said, you know, it doesn't really look too much different from the outside. We've got these steps here on the side, which I don't really know if these act as sliders or not. They do kind of look like sliders. So that's kind of cool. Take a look at our skid plates under here. You can see back there we've got a skid plate protecting our engine. You can see the shocks. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but you can get a little better view of the shocks. You can see somebody's scraped that. But anyways, let's take a look at this 6.2 liter V8. Got some red tow hooks on the front there. Pretty simple look here. I mean, it's been the same motor for so long. You'd think that maybe in these upgraded off-road trims like the AT4X and the ZR2 from Chevy, that maybe GM would give us Something a little different in the powertrain department, but not as such. In the back seat, again, normal GM stuff. We've got our little cubbies here on the seat backs that I really appreciate, because I love that GM likes to give little hidden compartments, and if you hide the strap under here, you cannot tell at all that that opens, so that is kind of neat. Seats lift up for some extra storage. I've got my snow brush in here right now so it doesn't rattle. All right, let's hop up in here, get a first look at this interior. Now, one of our big complaints with the Silverado ZR2 is that the interior just kind of felt really cheap in the material department. And I'm happy to report, actually, in this GMC AT4X, it does feel a bit nicer. The ZR2 was 70 grand. This AT4X as spec is about 80 grand. So you think for 10 grand more, you would get a nicer interior, and you certainly do. My favorite part is this Alcantara headliner. Feels very nice, looks very nice as well. Everything in here just feels very well put together. I've had no real squeaks or rattles this week with this truck, and just looking at these materials, you can kind of see why. Leather on the top of the door panel, this cool baseball style stitching here on the side. We've got this material, which I think is unique to this trim. I don't know really how to describe it. It's kind of like a rubberized, textured material. And then we also have wood that runs along the top as well as along the dash. We'll show you that a little bit more when we get up there. Drop down armrest and cup holders there in the middle. No climate control panel, just a couple of heated seat controls. And we are lucky that those even work, because some of the GM trucks we've had recently, due to the chip shortage, those heated seats have not worked. 2 USB inputs back here as well, and vents, which is better than nothing, but it would be cool to have a climate control panel back here when you're paying $80,000 for a big premium truck like this. Take a look here up at the dashboard. You can see we've got leather wrapped on top, and a little bit overall nicer looking interior than the Silverado, but we'll go ahead and hop up there, take a closer look. Handles on all 4 sides, which is nice to pull yourself up into this thing, because these steps slash rock sliders slash whatever, I don't really know what the purpose of these are. You can't really get your whole foot on it, and you also kind of slide off. So I've been using this handle to pull myself into the truck this week. AT4X badging there on the door panel. We also get it on the seat. It's like an actual metal or plastic badge there. Nice white piping and detailing here on the seats. I'm going to turn down my climate. It is a little bit toasty in here. Pretty big console. You can see you can remove this. Have a little bit of extra room and storage there. Glove compartment. Extra compartment in the dashboard. Pretty standard with 1500 series trucks in today's day and age. Alcantara wrapped visors that do extend and cover the whole windows. So those are nice. We've got a moonroof here with just a manual shade, which is not Alcantara, which is kind of disappointing. It'd be nice to have some consistency there, but when you're in Colorado, you just roll with that thing open and you'd never even see it anyways, so not too big of a deal. We've got a camera rearview mirror, which is very nice. And GM has stuck with lots of physical controls still here for the Sierra 1500, which is nice to see. The only thing that I do wish it had was a physical button for the cameras. You do actually have to go to the home screen. Luckily though, when you're on the home screen, it is on the first page of options, and you can see all of our different cameras we have here in this truck. You can see we have front and rear facing cameras. We've also got some zoomed in points of our 360 camera. We've got front and rear side cameras. If you're doing some off-roading, you're on a trail, you want to make sure you're not going to mess up the side of your truck, you can take a look at those. You've got a hitch camera, and you've also got a bed camera. And you've got some bed lights down here as well that you can turn on at night. If you need to take a look at whatever is in your truck bed, you can do that here with this button. So that's pretty nice. The coolest thing about this infotainment, though, is the fact that it has Google Maps built in. It is a subscription-based system, so you do have to pay for this monthly. I'm not entirely sure how much it is, but if you are willing to pay the fee, you can have Google Maps built in. But I don't really know if I see the purpose of wanting to pay for it, because you can just plug your phone in into Apple CarPlay and go like this and click Google Maps, and then you have free Google Maps here on your screen. So kind of would just be up to you if you're someone that prefers phone projection or doesn't. And with Apple CarPlay, we do have a split screen. So over here on the right-hand side, I've got my music up just because I'm don't really enjoy having a double nav screen, but if you're someone that wants one zoomed in view and one zoomed out view, you are able to do that. You can also see trailer status if you're towing, or you can have a clock. So we are actually going to drive today on the car's Google Maps system, so you guys can see what that looks like. Okay, I mean, otherwise, not really too much. We've got a leather-wrapped steering wheel with paddle shifters. We've got a hand shifter down here, a floor shifter, whatever you want to call this. But we have an empty spot here for what could be a column shifter. I don't know why companies are trying to stray away from column shifters so much nowadays. I really like having a column shifter, whether that be like kind of a Tesla or Mercedes-Benz style one that you just kind of push with your finger, or actually having a big physical column shifter that you move. I'd be okay with either. This shifter doesn't bother me too much. It just kind of doesn't do anything. So, you know, it doesn't help, nor, I mean, it's just there. Heated and cooled seats. You can heat your back and your butt, or just your back. But I think it's time we get on the road and show you guys what this GMC Sierra 1500 AT4X has been like to live with this week in Colorado. Okay. Reverse, push up. You can see it defaults you to your cameras. Parking brake is a button over here on the left side, pretty consistent with other GM vehicles. Smooth throttle response, and since we do have that 10-speed automatic here in this truck, the shifts are butter smooth. That's one thing GM always gets right, is their 10-speed automatic. You need to give some advice to Ford on that. So like I said, under the hood is a 6.2 liter naturally aspirated V8. It makes 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque, which does actually sound like a lot until you take into consideration that this is a very heavy truck. I want to say it's somewhere around the 6,000 pound range. So this is a big heavy beast. And you know, I've been thinking to myself all week, I kind of wish this had like 600 horsepower. It's not really, it's not slow, but it's certainly not quick. We'll give you a little taste of that here. And that is flat out. So it certainly leaves some power to be desired. It's so strange to me that GM goes and makes all of these different off-road trims of their trucks, but they don't change the powertrains. Ford's got the Raptor and the Raptor R. Ram has the TRX, and even the Toyotas, the TRD Pro Toyotas with that 3.5 hybrid, even those can boogie a little bit, but really not too much here with this GMC. Let's stop very quickly and do an acceleration. So there was 60. Like I said, it's adequate. I don't mind it, but I would certainly like to have some more. GM is just leaving this empty gap in the market for kind of a performance off-road truck. And there's nothing wrong with this. Not everyone wants their off-road truck to have 600 horsepower, but it would be nice to offer it to people that do. Anyways, though, let's get on to some of the positives about this truck, because I have actually really enjoyed living with this thing this week. And the biggest positive for me is honestly just the smoothness of everything. Like I said earlier, that 10-speed automatic is just flawless. I've had no rough shifts this week. It does a great job deciding by itself, though if you do want to control it, you can slap your shifter down into L mode, and you can manually change gears here with these paddles on the steering wheel. But I don't ever really find myself doing that because they aren't really inspiring. They don't inspire me to do any spirited driving or anything. They also don't really react very fast. So I've just been leaving this thing in D, letting it do its own thing. Also, it's very quiet. You'd think maybe with the 6.2 liter you'd have some raspy V8 exhaust notes, but not at all. It's a pretty quiet truck, which is good for the buyer that just wants their off-road truck, you know, for quietness, smoothness, comfort. But if you're someone that wants to make a little bit of noise on the trail, this is not the truck for you. This is more so the truck that you drive around in city centers through the Starbucks drive-thru, use that extra 2 inches of ground clearance, hop over some curbs and things. Oh, and speaking of ground clearance, this is a TheTopher video, so it's important that we talk about that. 11.1 inches, and I think that the reason it's 0.1 less than the 11.2 you get on the Silverado ZR2 is because the bumpers don't have as much of an aggressive angle front and rear. So slightly less ground clearance here, but having almost a foot of ground clearance is awesome. If you did actually want to hit some trails, this thing would be very, very good at doing so. Really cool Land Cruiser there in front of us, proper setup. And I'm not upset that I'm behind a bunch of people because I'm in a big truck that doesn't really encourage me to drive quickly. So we'll just kind of enjoy our chill drive here on Boulder Canyon Road. But honestly, I had this thing on the open road a couple days ago, and if you go to the Winding Road magazine channel, you can see that I was hustling it a little bit, and it was fine. It doesn't feel scary at high speeds. Let's see if it makes any noise. I already know the answer to this, but I want you guys to hear the noise it makes under the tunnel. Yeah, doesn't make any noise. The V8 has been restricted. I think with some sort of a muffler delete or aftermarket catback exhaust, this thing would actually sound awesome, because we know that 6.2 liter sounds good, so come on, GM, give us the option to hear it. That would be nice. Also, from a ride standpoint, when you're on a road like this, it's nice, it's fine. Those Multimatic dampers, they do a pretty good job on surfaces like this, but once you start to get to some bumpier things, it is kind of stiff. It's a little bit of a stiff ride, which isn't what you expect for an off-road style truck like this, especially when you're thinking of trucks like the TRX and the Raptor, which are actually damped to be very soft because they're meant to kind of do some high-speed off-roading at the sand dunes. You want to have soft damping for things like that. But I think this truck kind of, it's a different vibe in the way that it's kind of meant for more low-speed technical off-roading. So that's kind of the point in the market where GM is trying to hit with this truck. Lots of traffic up in the canyon today. There are cyclists, and you've got to have a ton of bravery to be a cyclist up among this chaos. Oh, man. Oh, that's an AMG GTR. Okay, then. But you can just see how effortless these shifts are in this thing. We've got 3 different drive modes here in the AT4X, but none of them are street drive modes besides normal. We've got normal, terrain, and off-road. We'll just stay in normal for today unless we find some sort of an off-road trail to go up, but I don't think we will. Honestly though, even with these all-terrain tires, you get a little bit of tire noise, but it's not to the level of the Nissan Pathfinder Rock Creek. So, you know, that's got to be a win here for GMC. And you, of course, have to expect with an AT4, with a ZR2, with some sort of an off-road trim, you are going to have some tire noise. It's not going to be whisper quiet. If you want it to be whisper quiet, you get the Denali. Which kind of leads me on to my next point. I think that if I were to go for one of these trucks, I would have the Denali, because there are certain things you get in that truck, luxury-wise, that you just don't get here in the AT4X. For one, Super Cruise. And Super Cruise is very important with these GM trucks because it really, really puts them a notch above the other trucks in base form in this segment. We had a Silverado High Country last year, and that thing had Super Cruise, and it was epic. It was the most unbelievable form of self-driving in a car in this segment that I've ever experienced. So if I had a GM truck, I'd have to have Super Cruise, which means I would have to have the Denali. Unfortunately, GMC doesn't offer the Super Cruise in the lower trims. They want to make sure you get, look at that house, it's beautiful. They want to make sure you get the top dog. All right, we're going to give this Land Cruiser a little bit of room here, see if we can hustle this thing a little bit, so I can show you that it is actually pretty, I mean, it's pretty confidence inspiring on a road like this. A little bit of howl from those all-terrains. turn in is nice, but you got to give it a lot of steering. You can see a very mild corner, and I've got almost half lock. But that 10-speed, man, that 10-speed knows what to do. Brakes feel nice. A little bit spongy, but for a truck, no real complaints with the brake pedal, in my opinion. Fully digital cluster there in front of us. You can do some customization. I've got it set up right now how I like, with my speed in the middle, analog style gauges on the left and right, and then we also have a heads-up display out there in front of us, and we can actually adjust that physically here with these buttons right below the cluster, which I do appreciate. You can move it up and down wherever you'd like it. You can also switch what kind of information you have on the heads-up display. I do not like having to go into the infotainment to adjust my heads-up display. It is not fun at all. So honestly, just as a thing, just as an all-around daily driver, I think that this AT4X would suit a pretty decently sized demographic. The only thing for me that I don't quite get is the reason why you'd go above an AT4 or a Trail Boss and get the AT4X or the ZR2. The only reason is, you know, if you're out somewhere like this, you really want to properly hit some trails and you really need that extra 2 inches. Sometimes we need an extra 2 inches, and, you know, GMC is here for you with the AT4X. So if this suits your lifestyle, I mean, I would say go for it. I don't really have any weird complaints about this truck from a living standpoint. So it's been good to me this week. And, well, I love the desert sand metallic paint. And overall, not too bad. 80 grand, a little steep. But you could always go for the Silverado ZR2, save yourself 10 grand, but the interior materials are simply not up to the same standard as the GMC. Also, you do get a power steering column as well, but I believe you also get that in the ZR2, so this is not unique to the GMC. You might loop back up here, turn around, and while we're doing that, we may actually run a quick sound system test. So this has the Bose sound system. I apologize, I don't know how many speakers it has. I've been bad, I haven't done my research. But I do know it sounds pretty good. It's not the best sound system I've ever heard. It's a little, what's the word? It's a little like, I'm gonna pull over here for a second. It's a little almost blurry and like vague. You can see her suspension is a little bit bouncy here on some rougher terrain. We're going to go ahead and kind of make a departure here. Use our cameras to turn around. See how close we can get to this pile of dirt without crashing into it. And this will be a good turning circle test as well for the AT4X. Front camera. Nice. Okay. Cool, well, let's listen to Ganja as we go down the mountain, and then we'll wrap up here very shortly. So a pretty good performance there from the Bose system. I guess I was a little bit harsh on it at first. You know, driving all these cars all the time, listening to all these different sound systems, I feel like I've built up way too high of a standard for what should be in just kind of a normal truck like this. And from Bose, this is a pretty high offering. It's a very strong system. There's a lot of power with it. Couple of things. It doesn't sound great at low volume, and it also kind of misses the complexity at high volume. But for some simpler heavy bass songs, Bose always does a good job. And this is by no means a bad system, but I certainly think that it could be a little better, but for what it is, not bad. All right, guys. Well, that is just about going to wrap it up here for the GMC Sierra 1500 AT4X. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have been able to gain some sort of take from this. And if you haven't already, go ahead and watch the TheTopher's video on the Silverado ZR2. It outlines a couple other things that would also relate to the AT4X. I like this big, hold on. Okay, I like this big start-stop button. You can almost hit it with 3 fingers, just kind of nail it with your hand when you get in. You don't have to go searching for it. It is right there in front of you, so that's pretty nice. Trailer brake controller down here. What else didn't I show you as far as buttons go? Oh, just front and rear locking diffs there on the far right. Otherwise, though, I think I showed you guys pretty much everything. Hopefully you were able to see what it was like to drive. Apologize, there's going to be a bit of noise from the traffic here on the outro. But that'll do it for the AT4X, a pretty cool truck. Kind of cool to have something in the market that's kind of aimed more so at some slow technical off-roading. But GM, please give us a Raptor or a TRX competitor. You could throw the Blackwing motor in there, make it a little bit wider, and it would just be awesome. Oh, that's another thing. That's what gives you a little bit more of an advantage, again, to slow technical off-roading, is this truck is still narrow. We don't have wide fenders that would limit you from going down some more technical trails like you'd be in the Raptor or the TRX. So like I said, there is still a market for this truck. I think there's still the right buyer for this truck. But anyways, I digress. Thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you real soon in the next one. I want to move out to Colorado. But anyways, that'll be it for us today. Take care.